Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something maybe a bit unexpected in blockchain's evolution. The idea that the plain old public internet might actually be holding things back now.
Yeah, it's a really interesting angle.
We're basing this on a Cointelegraph piece featuring Austin Federa. He's the co-founder and CEO of a company called DoubleZero.
Right.
And his argument, essentially, is that the internet's basic infrastructure, it's now the main bottleneck for these really high-speed, high-performance blockchains.
Exactly. It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? We always focus on, the clever software, the consensus algorithms, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But Federa is saying, hang on, what about the actual roads this traffic runs on? He thinks the internet, as it is, just wasn't built for what these advanced networks demand.
Okay, so let's get into that. The internet, I mean, we use it for everything. It feels ubiquitous. Why isn't it good enough for these high-throughput chains?
Well, Federa uses this analogy.
Yeah, the one big server talking to one little server thing. What does that actually mean?
So think about the original design, way back. A lot of it was optimized for, your computer asking a website for a page and the website sending it back.
Okay, a fairly straightforward request and response.
Yeah, a client-server model, basically.
But blockchain, that's totally different. It's peer-to-peer. You've got potentially thousands of computers, the validators.
Right.
All needing to talk to each other constantly, all at the same time. Sending transactions, verifying, broadcasting updates. It's this massive, messy web of communication.
Not one-to-one, but many-to-many.
Oh.
Okay. And Federa highlights this issue with validators constantly switching roles, like sometimes consuming data, sometimes broadcasting it.
Exactly. Imagine one moment a validator is downloading a huge chunk of data that's ingress. The next moment, it needs to broadcast its own validated block out to everyone else, massive egress.
That sounds like a very jerky, demanding pattern for any network. It really is. And the public internet, with its sort of general purpose design, it wasn't really optimized for that kind of rapid, high-volume switching between absorbing and sending data across so many points simultaneously.
So things like latency, the delay, become a bigger problem.
A huge problem. In that client-server model, a little lag loading a web page is annoying, maybe.
Yeah.
But in a blockchain, trying to reach consensus fast across the globe, even tiny delays add up. They slow down how quickly transactions get confirmed. It can even potentially affect the stability of the network if things get too out of sync.
And bandwidth, too, I guess. Just the sheer amount of data.
Absolutely. These validators are constantly chewing through and spitting out enormous amounts of data. The public internet just has limits, bottlenecks, congestion points. Federa argues that no matter how fast your software gets, you eventually hit the physical limits of the communication layer.
Okay, so the internet infrastructure is the problem. What's the fix? This is where DoubleZero comes in, right?
Yeah.
What are they actually proposing?
So DoubleZero, the company Federa co-founded, they're basically building a specialized network just for blockchains. Think of it like dedicated highway lanes only for blockchain traffic.
Like new fiber optic cables?
Exactly. High-speed fiber, specifically designed and laid out to minimize latency, the travel time for data, and maximize bandwidth, the amount of data it can carry. It's infrastructure built from the ground up for blockchain's needs.
And Austin Federa leading this. He was head of strategy at the Solana Foundation, right? A big player in a high-speed chain.
Yeah, his background is significant. He left Solana, which is known for pushing throughput limits, to co-found DoubleZero in late 2024.
That move itself says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests he saw this infrastructure problem as fundamental.
I think so. It signals that, from his perspective, working inside a high-performance chain, software tweaks alone weren't going to cut it anymore. You needed to address the physical layer, the actual communication network.
And they managed to raise money for this.
They have. Quite a bit, actually. A reported $28 million capital raise. So investors are seeing the potential, or at least the need, to.
Okay, so what are the specific goals? Just faster speeds?
Well, yes, faster speeds are a big part, driven by lower latency and higher bandwidth. But it's about making the communication reliable and predictable for these specific blockchain workloads.
And they have a timeline.
They're aiming to launch their public mainnet in the second half of 2025. So relatively soon in the grand scheme of infrastructure projects.
Right, so let's imagine DoubleZero or something like it is up and running. What does that mean for you, the person using a blockchain or DeFi? What changes?
Well, according to Federa, you could see several things. One, noticeably faster transactions, things just happen quicker.
Okay, that's always good.
2, in DeFi, especially for traders, lower latency could mean tighter spreads the difference between buying and selling prices. That makes trading cheaper, more efficient. And 3, potentially lower transaction fees overall. If the network communication is more efficient, it could reduce the overhead costs for validators, which might translate to lower fees for users.
So faster, maybe cheaper. What about entirely new things? Does this unlock possibilities that just weren't practical before?
Federa certainly suggests so. He argues that the current internet limits might be holding back certain blockchain applications that need, really, really fast and reliable data flow.
Like what, for example?
Maybe things like real-time decentralized data markets or extremely high-frequency trading strategies on DeFi platforms that just aren't viable with today's internet latency. It could open doors to a whole new class of applications we haven't really seen yet because the pipes weren't there.
It sounds like building the roads before certain kinds of vehicles can even exist.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Now, DoubleZero also did a Validator token sale earlier this year, April 2025. Who was that aimed at?
Yeah, that was interesting. It was targeted specifically at accredited investors, sure, but also at active validators on existing high-throughput chains.
Oh, so people already running nodes on networks like Solana, Celestia, Sui, Aptos, Avalanche?
Exactly. They went straight to the people who are likely feeling these internet limitations most acutely, the experienced operators who understand the need for better infrastructure.
So get the power users on board first, the ones who will benefit most and can, presumably, provide good feedback.
Seems like the strategy. And for anyone wanting the deep technical dive, Federa points to their white paper naturally.
Right. So stepping back a bit, this whole initiative, it feels like a sign of the blockchain space, well, growing up, maybe.
I think that's a fair assessment. Early stages are often about software innovation, proving the concepts. But as a technology matures and scales, it inevitably bumps up against limitations in the underlying infrastructure.
Like needing specialized hardware or networks.
Precisely. It shows the sector recognizing that for the next leap in performance and capability, you can't just rely on the general-purpose public internet anymore. You need dedicated, optimized, physical infrastructure.
It's almost like the internet was the dirt road, and now blockchains need their own paved superhighways.
Yeah, that's not a bad analogy at all. The existing roads got us here, but to go faster and carry heavier loads, you need something purpose-built.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the main idea for everyone listening.
Sure.
The core argument from Austin Federa, highlighted in that Cointelegraph piece, is that the public internet, amazing as it is, has become a real bottleneck for the fastest blockchain networks.
Right. Its fundamental design just isn't suited for the massive, many-to-many high-volume communication these chains require.
And DoubleZero is Federa's ambitious project to solve this by building its own dedicated fiber optic network, basically custom-built communication rails just for blockchains.
Aiming for much lower latency and much higher bandwidth than you typically get on the public net.
And the potential payoff for you. It could mean faster transactions, possibly lower fees, more efficient DeFi, and maybe even completely new kinds of blockchain applications becoming possible.
Yeah, applications that simply couldn't work reliably or fast enough before.
So it really leaves you with something to think about, doesn't it? As blockchain keeps evolving, what other hidden bottlenecks in our existing infrastructure might pop up?
That's a great question. What other fundamental layers might need rethinking or rebuilding?
And maybe more excitingly, if projects like DoubleZero succeed in creating these super-fast communication networks, what truly new things could it be built on top? What becomes possible when that speed limit is effectively removed? Definitely something worth watching.